So I'm glad to say that we still have about 15 minutes left for questions. So I'll go over Gitter and pick the questions that were unanswered. So we have one for Rise from James O'Connor, and he's asking, free test search is interesting. What fields does it search over? Are there certain augmentations done to make the assets searchable or discoverable? So Rise, do you want to address this?
Yeah, so currently it searches across the items properties, but we are currently working on another extension for asset search, which would enable this also to search across assets as well.
I might actually, if I could, yep. Joanna, that was my question. I might just kind of follow up a bit because I remember there was lots of data augmentation work being done by the GRASS community to kind of include a lot of metadata past the typical stuff with imagery assets. So I was wondering if that was the direction this is going, and one that comes to mind is that they had population counts of a given area in the metadata of the assets they were storing to search on. So is there any kind of thinking in the kind of design space around what kind of fields we might make searchable or queryable?
Yeah, so for us, we want to aim to make all our fields searchable. But having raised that with some of these Stack people, I think they're less inclined to make assets fully searchable, as we're hoping to do. But yeah, I think our aim is definitely to have all properties searchable.
And would you include kind of use case tags for that, I guess, agriculture, that kind of stuff?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think most of the speakers did a really good job in answering the questions on Gitter. If anyone has a question that you didn't post on Gitter or you would like to see answered now, please go ahead. Otherwise, okay. So there was a thread from James. He posted the catalog for his Stack collection. And then Matthias asked, great to see this. Have you run a validator over it? It seems to have some minor issues with the license. The browser could also render the cogs. Yeah, go ahead. I saw you just answered it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wish I would run a validator over it, but these are the things we could. I guess we've generated a number of times as the Stack versions changed, so I thought I'd just put it out before I needed to fix it again. But yeah, no, it's something I'll definitely look at today, so thanks to Matthias for the suggestion. But looking forward to getting it on Stack Index. It's good. I'm kind of would like to see other new space companies use that Stack subdomain to host some imagery samples. It'd be nice to see.
Thank you. Okay, so anyone would like to ask more questions to the speakers now? It was not meant to be read out loud. Sorry, I apologize. So maybe if we have a few minutes, Tom, maybe I can ask you to give a quick overview of OGC API records for the people on this call that may not be familiar with it, and what are its similarities and with Stack? How do they intersect?
Okay, good question, Joanna. So OGC API records is positioned to address the discovery and search story for geospatial resources using the OGC API approach. So Stack has, in relation to Stack, I mean, Stack has relations to OGC API in general, obviously through features initially, and we are looking at what the relationship is with OGC API records. So back to records. it's seen to satisfy the discovery and search at a very broad and a very generic level, not only for Earth observation type data or metadata records, but any kind of metadata records, whether it's water quality data or biodiversity data, any kind of metadata, and whether the data is actually a data set or a service or a process. Absolutely anything. It's also, for those who are familiar with the first generation of OGC standards, OGC API records is meant to be the replacement for the catalog service for the web standard, the CSW standard that came out from OGC in 2007, which is still used out there, just like a number of the other first generation OGC standards, as we transition over to OGC API. So it's meant to address the same use case that CSW did, using modernized approaches, open API and RESTful design patterns, and so on. It's aligning to the building blocks philosophy of the OGC API specifications. So it's built off of OGC API features as a building block, with a few conformance classes. Basically, the idea behind OGC API records is you can provide any kind of metadata, geospatial metadata, in any kind of format, and allow that to be searchable through bounding boxes or date times. We also introduce a Q equals in OGC API records, and a sort by, which I think those are going into OGC API features proper as building blocks. So then we'll be able to reuse them from records, because Q and sort by can be used by much more than just catalogs. So having said that, that's the design. You can put any kind of metadata there. For example, ISO XML metadata, or the previous generation metadata formats. There is a conformance class for GeoJSON, and we do define a set of core queryables. So you can make your data available in any format you want, or any representation that you want, but the record standard also provides a set of core queryables, so that regardless of your information model underneath, somebody querying the catalog will be able to say title equals, and that title equals, you may manage it a certain way in your catalog, and somebody manages it a certain way in their catalog, but when doing a search, it is interoperable, and it allows for federated interoperability in terms of doing core queryables. There's work going on with we're targeting the end of this calendar year or early next calendar year for a 1.0. We're almost at the point for public review. There's ongoing discussions on the relationship between Stack and what constitutes a collection in OGC API records, and what's a collection in in the Stack ecosystem. Again, I see Stack as more focused on EO data as opposed to OGC API records, which is, I would say, a superset of that. So there are some synergies there, and Chris Holmes has been very helpful in working with us in OGC and in the SWIG to clarify and make the relationship more clear. I think from a weather, climate, and water perspective, we're trying to clarify that relationship in terms of data granularity. So we're, one idea is having Stack providing Stack items for the granules, and then OGC API records providing the metadata for the actual collections, which then points to perhaps Stack catalogs, which could provide the lower level granular metadata. So there's we need both in weather, climate, and water data exchange. We just need to continue to architect where both of those things are, and how they interact, and where we jump from OGC API records to Stack catalog, and interacting potentially with a Stack API for doing data set level searches as opposed to data set collection level searches. So granularity is a big piece of the equation, and I'm glad to see that both communities are trying to address that. So I would say these are really good problems to have, given the fact that there's so much brain power and muscle going behind both the Stack ecosystem and the OGC API standards.
Thank you, Tom, for the it was an excellent overview. So this is something definitely to keep an eye on. I just posted the link in the Gitter, so if people want to learn more about this candidate standard. So if I don't see more questions, so I'm going to thank the speakers for these really interesting presentations, which showed like the power of Stack in real use cases within their organizations, and we can continue the conversation over Gitter if you want, and wish you a good rest of the sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.